Welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, where our mission is to provide education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. USA Global TV and Radio connects you with experts and audiences all around the world every single day to help you succeed in business and to live a richer life. Visit us at usaglobaltv.com to learn about career and life-changing training and mentoring programs like the Listening Mentor. Subscribe to our newsletter to stay informed about our special programs and offers. Discover how you can become a guest on one of our shows or a host or producer of a USA Global TV and Radio show of your very own. That's USA Global TV and Radio, where the doctor is always in.
Welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio. I'm Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck, and our show today is The Art of Creating Mental Health Wealth. Our guest hasn't joined yet, but our star of our show, JENETTA Barry, in the Epiphany Process, and I have a great topic that we're going to talk about today, and it really is in alignment with safety. Ooh, what does that mean? Let's bring out JENETTA and have a chat. Hi, JENETTA. How are you?
Hello. Hi, Dr. Jacalyn. Great to be with you after your 60th birthday celebrations. And I'm well.
Good. And I'm still standing. So how about that? Great news.
I'm still standing.
Better than ever, whatever the words are. Anyway, JENETTA, we always have people joining us for the first time. And this show is The Art of Creating Mental Health Wealth. You actually came up with this. Tell our audience a little bit about why this resonates with you.
Oh, this is really very, very close to my heart, because we all deal with loss in many, many forms, but ultimately sometime or another in our lives, we're going to have to deal, if we haven't already, with the loss of a loved one. And it's the biggest thing to go through. And it doesn't matter who that loved one is, whether it's a mother, father, dog, cat, Father Christmas, whatever it is. But that's another subject for another time, is Father Christmas. But there's always those times where you are so challenged, you wonder how you could ever go on. And I had such a challenge 18 years ago now, when I lost my 16-year-old daughter, Jenny, to suicide. And it's been quite a journey. It was incredibly difficult to begin with. I had no idea how I was going to get through. And through a series of happenings, one of them, my biggest happening, and a series of being determined to get through that loss, I sit here today talking about the art of mental health wealth being assisted through performing arts and the arts. And the reason for that is that we are creatures of the whole universe, of the whole of creativity. And our creator, whoever you might think or feel that is a power or whatever, that has the bigger picture that we don't have. And when we step into our creativity, we're truly aligned and in tune with our creator, creativity, and creation as a whole. And when that happens, we get to see that bigger picture with the creator. And so anything that's creative really helps us to become aligned and in tune with all of that. And that's when hearts open, and the story of feeling actually disconnected, which is what that is, feeling challenged and down, and perhaps feeling like you can't carry on, is a disconnect from being connected to your creativity, which connects to the global creativity and the creator. And when you're there, life becomes very valuable. And that is why I am so passionate about talking about this on this show and inviting guests to talk about it too.
Thanks so much for that, Janetta. That really, I think, it frames things up for people to understand how and why this show is important, not just to you and me, but to people all over the world, because we talk about topics that people are afraid to talk about or feel uncomfortable talking about. And we just like to bring awareness for educational purposes and also to inspire hope and inspiration for people to know that they're not alone.
Exactly. And that's what this platform provides. I mean, Dr. Jacalyn, what you've been able to create through all the different programs that address the challenges that we all from time to time have to deal with, or if we're not personally having to deal with, more than likely have loved ones or people that we are very close to who have to deal with it, so that we can understand it. And there are a lot of thought-provoking and insightful programs on this platform. And I really would suggest that you go and have a look at what resonates with you outside of this program too, because it's a mindful of information on this platform.
Thanks, Janetta. I appreciate that. And I find for myself, I'm always learning. Even every week at the end of the week on Friday, I think to myself, oh my goodness, think about how much you learn. They don't teach a lot of this stuff in school either.
Absolutely. In fact, I think probably, even though they're important, they're not the most important subjects at school, because that schooling system was created and birthed out of the Industrial Revolution, when it was really important to have engineering precision to support the Industrial Revolution. So the learned few were taught how to be mathematicians and engineers and also architects, or whatever it was that would bring the Industrial Revolution to its height and be really effective. But of course, it cut that way very, very effectively. But what it didn't do is cut the other way for those people whose value systems don't resonate with that type of creativity. And so there are a lot of people in schools right now feeling that they're failures when they're not. They're just not in their true creative genius, or not being shown how to tap into their true creative genius through subjects at school. And so there's usually you're a bit of a dummy if you're not a scientifically inclined person. And I would like to suggest here that when you're being creative in other ways, you're a genius, you're in your wisdom, and it's just missing in schooling systems.
Absolutely. I remember from when I was in school so long ago that it was almost like you should be cookie cutters of each other. And when people were standing out for one reason or another, they got called out and maybe isolated or bullied by other people because they were different. And meanwhile, we should be celebrating those differences, because there's a lot of learning there and curiosity about how someone does something differently, how someone thinks about something differently than we do.
And you hit it on the head, Dr. Jacalyn. Cookie
Yay!
cutter. Cookie cutter is exactly what our schooling system in the Western world has become, and of course that's gone into other parts of the world as well as the norm to how to teach people, because it's like, not only are they trying to make sure that it conforms with the Industrial Revolution model, but students are treated like batches in a factory, cookie cutter batches. So you look at it, the school bell is like in a factory, and you churn out all these children on a production line according to a model that one size fits all, according to age. So there's batches, cookie cutter batches of age, and cookie cut batches of where they excel more in those subjects that are more valued. and again, usually not the creative subjects. So everybody's churned out in a monotypical way, unless somebody stands out within that model as being super special, and then they're kind of like the product that you buy or you gain that is valued so much more than its normal products. It could be the product with the extra chili in it, and anybody that is not conforming to that batch gets thrown out because it's not good for that batch. And that's what's happening in schooling systems, and why so many children are sitting there going, my life is worthless. I've just had a mother, by way of example, message me this morning, where I've assisted. He's 11 years old, and I assisted him over the last few weeks in actually just 4 sessions to step back into his confidence and his knowing that what he has is enormous to offer. And she was going, he's just had a school report saying how he's back in his confidence and creating amazing work.
Wow, congratulations. That's excellent. I think that's a good segue into what I had talked about at the beginning of the show, which is safety. When we're conforming and doing what we're supposed to do, that can leave us feeling safe because we're falling in line, we're doing what's expected. And when we're not, we can feel unsafe because we're different, we're unique, we're tapping into our creative genius. But it can also be the opposite way, that when we're falling in line and doing what we're supposed to do, that we don't feel safe because it's not who we are. And I think that's a lot of what we've been seeing going on in the world, where people are saying, okay, I did it the way you wanted me to do it. I identified the way you wanted me to. And now I'm saying I can't do it anymore because I don't feel safe, even in my own body or my own home. What are your thoughts about that, JENETTA?
Yeah, absolutely. Because people who are operating in other people's values have become disempowered. They're believing that they can get their power by being endorsed by others through doing what they perceive others want them to do. But all the time, they're giving away their power and not being able to tap into where their truth and their light is. And in actual fact, it goes the other way too. Sometimes you think that you're in a place, maybe you are resonating with whatever it is that's being put structure in, because everything needs boundaries and structure. It's not about not having structure, it's about flexibility. So supposing you are the top mathematician in the world at school, highest IQ for mathematics, which is the other thing. So you're there, and now that should make you feel safe, because you're where the system expects you to be. But with that can come a lot of unsafety, a lot of feeling very unsafe, that also those students that are excelling often don't know how to bring into equilibrium and manage it, because they're doing so well that the distraction of doing well and being lauded isn't always able to allow them or enabling them to feel and work through where all that is equally making them feel unsafe.
Yeah, it's a big topic, isn't it?
It really is
Yeah.
huge. And I'd love, I'm streaming through to my Facebook group right now, or my Facebook page, my profile, and there are a lot of people on there who know my work, and some of them who've actually worked through this work through me very powerfully. But I would like to invite, if anybody isn't at their office desk, and they may be only listening and can't, but anybody who'd like to respond or add or ask questions to what we're talking about, because this is a hot topic, especially for children and teenagers and parents or caregivers of those teenagers and children. It's a huge, huge issue right now, especially post-COVID.
Why do you think that COVID made such a big impact?
Well, again, because everybody was following a model that's supposed to be safe, and then that safe model changed form. And if you're not skilled on how to deal with such enormous change to which had been attached the possibility that everyone might die, because that's where the fear was sitting, that the world at large that we knew and felt fairly safe with might disappear completely. And that's where people were knee-jerking from, and where kids were at home trying to deal with that supposed reality, because it was only partial reality and part of the truth, but it felt like the truth. And then they weren't able to communicate it effectively with themselves, the people around them. They weren't able to interact with their friends at school. And then by the time, I mean, especially in UK, where the lockdown went on for so long, when they finally got back to school, the old paradigm of how they operated at school had changed, and their experiences and everybody else around them's experience had changed, and all of them had their socializing skills compromised. So it was like going back to square one yet again, having to go to square one in lockdown and then back to reframing and square one post lockdown. And there's still a lot of children that are dealing with worrying about losing so much, because they perceive, and it is a perception, that they've lost so much over the last 3 odd years.
Yeah, you bring up a lot of great points there, Janetta. And I think even as an adult, the information that we received, for example, about vaccinations, we were told one thing, everybody has to get vaccinated. And then when the pandemic is coming to an end, the research is, oh, well, maybe the vaccinations were not as effective, or maybe certain groups shouldn't haven't been getting vaccinated. It was very confusing. And when you think that you look to your government to give you information, or World Health Organizations to give information, and then that information is being questioned, that leaves an adult in a feeling of being unsafe, not knowing what to believe and what not to believe.
Absolutely. And the thing is that also that vaccination wasn't given the time to be really, or those vaccinations to be thoroughly tested before they were sent through. But I believe there might even have been quite a lot of placebo effect with those vaccinations. I certainly sat there imagining that I was being vaccinated this amazing healing golden light, and I had no repercussions from it at the age that I am. I mean, I was 61, 62 at the time, and I really believe that's the whole thing. A lot of that was all put together from knee-jerk reactions from companies, and well, certainly from leaders worldwide that had a reaction to companies who just went, well, we've got to get something out, otherwise we're all going to die, and civilization as we know it will end. And I said from the beginning, when lockdown came in, I was going around saying, this is a really real issue. I'm not marginalizing that it's not a real issue. There are people dying from this disease, and it has gone worldwide, and the numbers are big. At the same time, when you go to the opposite side of fighting it, from fear and extreme judgment, it means that the fear of us all dying meant that other ways and forms, and stopping that, preventing the death, meant that we hadn't had time, and nobody took to think about the time, if you're avoiding death in one form, it's going to start showing itself up in new forms, because there can never be a void. You can't avoid death. It's part of life. So if you're going, this form of death is unacceptable and has to be avoided at all costs, because there's never such a thing as a void. Science will tell you when there's a void, it's immediately replaced. So nobody had factored in where, in avoiding death through COVID, through these extreme knee-jerk reactions, is it going to show itself in different forms. So a lot of people died from depression, broken hearts, loneliness, cancer, heart attacks. And then, so that's the physical side. The other side is that there was death of ambition, death of jobs, death of being able to communicate, death of interacting. There was so much death happening in different forms because we were avoiding death. And that's when I had so many people coming to me, bringing that into balance as well, so that they could move forward from a powerful, bigger picture, step back and look at the bigger picture of what was happening, and be able to handle whatever was presented to them in a powerful way and turn it around to move forward with.
Yeah, it's really a fascinating topic that we could spend days discussing. And I feel like if we took two homes, two households, one where there's no outside information coming in, so there's no television, there's no newspaper, there's no information coming in on devices, and we took another one where the television's running all day with the mainstream news. You're getting notifications of this going on in the world and that going on in the world. What do you think the difference might be in terms of the mental health of the people living in the first household without access and the second household with constant access?
Yeah, it's an interesting one to reflect on, because there are many factors influencing those two case studies that will not be identical to any other similar case studies. The one would be, where is the isolated family sitting? Are they in a powerful place with or without that media, or are they subjected to being, not having that media, through having the media through somebody at home saying outside is more scary, so we're not connecting with anybody? So it would be about seeing why they're not connected to the outside world, because if it's from an equally disempowering place in a different form, in other words, for different reasons, the same sort of happenings are going to happen within that household. So it would be about, and I don't know if there's an ideally isolated family. You and I were in a powerful discussion group on Monday night about the importance of being able to interact with each other and touch each other and feel. And if you're only in your family without any other influence, it means that you're more than likely not interacting with all those other people, unless there's another family also isolated from that. And even that, because it starts feeling a bit cultish. So even if you isolate everybody from all that information, it will be replaced by something else until you understand the bigger picture, and you can embrace it, bring it in, and start operating from an open heart, rather than from fear and judgment of what shouldn't be and mustn't be in the future.
I think the open heart part is really key. I also think, I know during the pandemic, I was alone for a good part of it, and I had the television on, the news was on 24/7, and I don't think that really helped me in any way, because you
Yeah.
become consumed with it, and it's almost like it takes over everything else, and when you don't have anyone to speak to discuss things back and forth, I felt like I had to make a decision, and the decision I finally made was for my own health. I was not going to watch the television anymore, because when I finally left my home, I was literally terrified that there were actually things outside that were going to get me. And when I saw the sky and the sun, I thought, what have I been doing for the last 2.5 months? Holed up by myself, imagining all kinds of things. So there was the fact that I was physically safe, but emotionally, I was not in a safe place because of what I had witnessed on the television and what I had imagined was going to happen to me.
Yes, absolutely. And there you go. There's the balance again. In the safety is unsafety, because the two go together, and it's learning how to bring safety in and unsafety into manageability. And I mean, one of the things I was aware of, we were locked down in UK, Andy, my husband, and I, for months and months and months, almost as close to house arrest as you could get. And understanding, I was sitting there going, actually, I would like to be out and about, building up an immune system to all of this and many other things, because that's another thing that happened once everybody stepped back into the new normal. Those immune systems were compromised, not only re-COVID, but many other things. So everybody had to start building up immune systems again. So there's always a manageable way to go through with these things, so that the challenge, the adversity, and its opposite, where the adversity brings in the ability to move forward powerfully, are put together so that it's not only one way of doing things.
So, am I correct in thinking that in order to feel safe, you have to know what it feels like to feel unsafe?
You're absolutely right, and it's also understanding that within safety, unsafety in different forms is always present. The same as when you're unsafe, there are factors of safety present. So if you're only focused on one side of that continuum, that'll feel like the reality, but it's only half the reality. When you bring safety and unsafety, and you start seeing where, oh, in feeling safe, this is where I'm feeling equally as unsafe, or in feeling unsafe, this is where safety has come in where I've never felt it before. When you bring those two together and understand they're not separate, powerful conversations start happening from within you and without you to other people, and powerful happenings come from it.
So, Janetta, let's try to break this down for our audience. Some people prefer to be safe. They don't want to take risks. They're not going to put themselves out of their comfort zone. And I'll just give an example. Maybe it's someone who has lived in the town where they grew up. They've been there their whole life. They have the same handful of friends. They've never ventured outside. That could be safe in someone's mind. And just talking about something on the opposite, maybe there's someone that's moved all over the world and has friends in all different places, doesn't get too tied down to anything or anyone, and they feel safe knowing that they have choice. So who's safe and who's not, and who's unsafe and who's not? Are they both safe and unsafe at the same time?
I love the last part is actually accurate, but they're safe and unsafe in different forms. So it feels almost impossible to compare them to each other. They're like apples and oranges instead of apples and apples. But that's also the illusion, because if you're feeling safe in your hometown, it means it's because you're not feeling safe outside your hometown. So there's the presence of unsafe. And if you're feeling safe traveling the world, it means that you haven't seen where it's unsafe to travel the world. That's kind of like a generalization, because you, on the surface of things, if you're successfully traveling the world, you found ways to keep yourself safe. But what you haven't been able to understand is that within all those times of making sure you're feeling safe, you've done it because you've had little bits of input of not feeling safe that add up to the same amount of unsafety that the person in their village is feeling. But because you're not feeling it all at once, like the person in their hometown village or town is feeling, you almost don't recognize that it took feeling unsafe to take the next safe decision as you travel around the world, because that unsafety is always present.
Yeah,
Always.
that makes a lot of sense. And what I'm also thinking is that in relationships, in relationships, for example, you can, let's say you're in a relationship with someone for a long time and you feel safe knowing that you have a partner, and you're not very happy, but you feel safe knowing that you're part of something. Or you're single and you don't feel safe in a relationship, but you feel safe by yourself because you know what to expect. So, how do you, I don't want to say rationalize, but how do you come to terms with what it is that's best for you? Where do you feel your happy place is in safety or being unsafe?
I just love your questions, Dr. Jacalyn,
People
because
come up
they're
with things, I
just
don't.
spot on. Okay, so the person that's stuck in a relationship because it makes them safe, even though they're not happy, has marginalized where they're not feeling safe and maximized where they are feeling safe. That's why there's dissension in them and they're not feeling happy, because they're going, okay, I'm going to forget about where I'm not feeling safe. That's where the unhappiness is sitting. And they're going, I'll stay here because this makes me feel safe. But when you start working out where in feeling safe in that relationship, where it isn't serving you, and where in feeling unsafe, so you're able to get the qualities. It's not about going into the story, because the story is what puts you down that rabbit hole. In all the years of therapy that I watched Jenny, my daughter, go through, and I went subsequently, every time I went into the story, it was like going down that rabbit hole, and it made me feel even more unsafe. But when you're able to powerfully bring up what parts of this relationship is making me unsafe or feel unsafe to the same degree as it's making me feel safe, and then be able to understand the value of the unsafety in the relationship and the disservice in feeling safe in the relationship as you were operating in. When you can bring the disservice in feeling safe and the service, you can do the service very easily if you're attached to it, and then the value of or the service of feeling unsafe to the same degree that there's disservice in feeling unsafe. When you bring those two parts of your relationship together, then suddenly you're able to powerfully manage the unsafe instead of sort of bringing it down and burying it inside you as a hidden fear. It's out there, and you're using powerful words and powerful ways to deal with the unsafe so that you speak your truth from your heart. We're back to open-hearted. When you speak your truth from the heart, from a really authentic place, then suddenly what was unsafe starts feeling safe again. And where we believed we were safe, we understand how we can become even more authentically safe rather than hanging on to one aspect of feeling safe, because it's only part of the truth. And the other side, of course, is just remind me what your other example was on the opposite side.
Well, I have a new example for you, which I think probably there's probably a lot of people out there who could relate to this. Is you're working for a paycheck, you're working for healthcare benefits, and you feel very safe because you're going to get a paycheck. The paycheck's coming. You don't have to think about it. And maybe 15 years ago, JENETTA, you said, "Hey, I'm going out on my own," and you were putting yourself potentially in an unsafe position. Like when I left corporate, I don't want to say it's unsafe, you're unsure, unclear. Whereas a paycheck is pretty clear. You look at your bank account, there's the money. You got your health insurance paid for. So we sometimes choose a path where we're putting ourselves out of what we know as being safe so that we can open our hearts and find our passion. So that change, that willingness to put ourselves in what can be perceived by others or by ourselves as unsafe can also be an opportunity for growth, which can then make us feel safe. Does that make any sense?
You've hit it on the head again. That's exactly what it's about. When you stick in a place of one form of safety and don't understand that it takes getting unsafe to feel safe again in a new form, then you stick into that and stay in that one place of feeling safe. There's a lot lost in feeling stuck in a paycheck, because it really does stick you. And I'm not saying there isn't the same list of where it empowers you, because it really does. It helps a lot. But when you can run that list of where it equally disempowers you and takes away your ability to be empowered. So as much as the paycheck and that pension allows you to feel empowered in one form, you've missed out the list of where it equally is disempowering you. And it's disempowering you from choice, the choice to take chances, and the choice to feel unsafe. Because when you know that there are powerful ways to handle and deal with that unsafety, and how very valuable unsafe is for you. See, we're very attached to believing that safety is the way that will keep us safe. But that very way of keeping us safe puts us into feeling unsafe, because we haven't got the safety tools to take a chance and take leaps of faith. So we lose out safety in our faith in ourselves, and faith in the universe as a whole. So we're putting all our faith and trust into a paycheck and not being able to understand the value of risks that will put our faith in new ways, faith in ourselves, faith in the universe, faith in our choices. But it takes being unsafe to find those new ways of feeling safe and having faith.
I agree. I'm really interested in this topic, and I wish we had more time, but we're running low because we have another show after this. Something that just popped into my mind was when we take actions to keep ourselves safe physically, and this is an extreme example. I'm not going to leave the house. I'm going to stay in the house because I feel safe. When I open the door and I go outside, there's a whole world. I don't know what's going to happen. If we take that choice, then mentally, emotionally, we're probably not going to be safe, because part of us is going to die inside. It seems like an extreme term, but not having that curiosity, that ability to see new things, experience new things, I feel could be a slow death.
Absolutely. And in fact, it's a slow death, and it's also a big death, because that's what's dying is your curiosity is dying. Your ability, your discernment is dying. Your choice is dying. So the moment you're feeling safe in one form, those other forms start feeling unsafe, and then that ability to do that dies. So although you're keeping yourself safe from harm and possible death, other parts are being killed because your motivation is coming from a place of fear and extreme judgment. So it's one thing powerfully deciding that I'm staying at home because these are the benefits, but at the same time I can see where there aren't benefits, and yet this is in my highest good. But at some point or another, because no man is an island, it would push you to a point of being able, if you're wise, to find out where you're not safe. So you're not safely feeling like you're using discretion, choice, decision making skills, communication skills, interactive skills. There are a whole load of skills that are dying. There's death in there.
Absolutely. And something that I think you and I can relate to, you and I are public figures. We are in the public domain. And for many people, that scares the daylights out of them thinking of doing it themselves. I can remember when I started interviewing people on a platform 2019, how many people I'd have to ask before I would get a yes that someone would be willing to be interviewed, because I would hear the whole thing. I don't feel safe. I don't feel confident. I don't want to put myself out there. But yet we know by putting ourselves out there is the growth. So feeling unsafe gives us the safety of knowing that we have formed new skills. We provided information to help others, and therein lies the growth.
Absolutely, because when you get through the unsafe period, you feel safe again.
Exactly. Exactly. Woo, we have covered a lot today, my friends, and I really personally thank you, because I've really enjoyed this conversation, and it's been insightful for me as well.
You know, this is my passion. This is what I learned when I had to walk the walk of unsafety and having lost a daughter to suicide, because my whole life went down to ground zero, and you have no idea how unsafe I felt in all areas of my life. And I couldn't see a solution until I realized I'd forgotten I was only seeing one part of that picture. I was only seeing unsafety. And when I stepped into expanding from there and seeing where I was equally as safe, and also understanding that safe and unsafe, it's a cycle, and it goes in ebbs and flows throughout our lives. And I have many a night where in the middle of the night I'm not feeling safe, and I'm just so glad I have this process to go ding 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 ding. Okay, all right, so this is where the safety is in feeling unsafe, and what is this enabling me to move forward with, that if I slept through from 9 till 6, what would, every single night religiously, what would be, where would I start feeling unsafe? And that's the secret.
Da-da-da! There's the secret, folks. JENETTA, how do people reach out to you? Are you open to taking on new clients?
Yeah, you're very welcome to reach out to me. This is where my passion lies, and what has birthed World Jenny's Day through creative arts as well. But if you'd like to know more about this, then the epiphany process is really worthwhile listening to, and I'm prepared to help you and have a personal one-on-one with you, to begin with, so that you understand it a little bit more. So you can get hold of me either on the website, which is www.theepiphany, EPIPHANY process.com, or you can get me at my email personally, which is JENETTA, JENETTA, at theepiphanyprocess.com. And I always make time to be available for people who are ready to step into a new way of embracing life, understanding the pros and cons and the cycles, and living an empowered life again.
Thank you so much, JENETTA. We'll be right back with Global Adventures, and we're going on a safari today, yes?
We're going on safari with my friend and neighbor, and it's a wonderful story, and I can't wait to share it with you, and go through to USA Global TV and Radio Network on YouTube, because the link will be there for the next live show, and we'll see you there.
All right. We'll be back in less than 15 minutes. So do stay with us wherever it is that you are. And please do reach out to JENETTA. You can also find her on LinkedIn. She's here to help you. Reach out. If you don't reach out, you're never going to know what's going to happen. Get out of your safety so you can feel unsafe, so you can feel safe again. There we go. All right.
Oh,
Bye,
see you
everyone.
just now, Dr. Jacalyn. Bye.
Bye.